For those of you who have watched my previous D'Artagnan coverage on this channel, I'm sure you're finding this as humorous as I do, so to some degree, in that as much as I keep stating my intentions sporadically as it relates to D'Artagnan content, I keep breaking my own rules. The exception, I guess, is deserved. And maybe for some of you, you're approaching this video not knowing who D'Artagnan is. I'll offer more clarification in a minute, not only to the group, but as to my history with them on this channel. But at this point, I've covered 12 tracks in total, I think. Maybe a couple more. No, I think it's 12. I've said sporadically throughout the run of coverage I've given them that after a certain point, you know, the measure of tracks I cover in one sit-down session does tend to vary in range and in total. So it's occasional that I mention this point. But after a certain number of videos, I say, okay, you know, I've had so much fun covering them, and I do, 100%. And there always will have a door open on this channel as far as I'm concerned in regard to new work. I've left that door open as much as possible, you know, previously. I have to cap it off at a certain number. That's been my intention. Because for me, as much fun as I have covering D'Artagnan, and as much fun as I have bringing music into, coverage into a more prominent role in this channel in comparison to other venues of entertainment that have had a much more substantial run and place here, I have to balance entertainment with work. And music coverage is a passion project for me. But the way that I format the videos and the way that I am forced to approach producing them, it takes a much more extensive amount of time in comparison to other venues of entertainment. Some videos are, you know, they're quicker to publish than others. And with music coverage and D'Artagnan-related coverage, it does take a much more intentional process on my part. So I have to take that into consideration, right? And I'm like, okay, at some point, you know, cap it here, give enough time, take a bit of a break, but always leave a door open for future endeavors. And yet, here I am again to cover D'Artagnan. At this point for tonight, we're going to make that total, bump it up from 12 to 14. But for certain art, you know when it's deserved. You know when you have such a positive experience and that feeling, you crave to have it again as soon as possible. That's been the process with D'Artagnan. Ever since I first covered My Loves in Germany, that was the first track that brought me in. And 12 tracks later, I have been absolutely enthralled by this group. I mean, I knew to a certain extent I would like them going in because they are European-based. They're from Germany. And I've always had a special place in my heart over the last couple of years, as much as I've dived into this particular avenue of rock and metal music in the world. European rock and metal is enthralling. I'm very impressed by the creativity, the artistry, and the execution of many artists within different countries in the European region. It's very impressive what's present in their arts library. To make a comparison, let's say, for example, if you're familiar with Cinema World, many people are, you know, raving about, let's say, South Korean film fare. And, you know, if you're a big K-pop fan, I'm sure you can speak to their music quality. I mean, their arts industry really is thriving. And we have some areas in America, you know, that is the case as well. I don't see it, though, in the level of originality or character as much, speaking of specifically Hollywood music or the more mainstream and well-known artists, as compared to Europe. Europe really fascinates me. And D'Artagnan has been a case of that every single track I've given a listen to. And I never knew I would like folk rock as much as I do, right? I mean, again, I knew being a metalhead that rock and metal are right up my alley. But folk rock has such a unique style, and in some ways, I mean, the Musketeer vibe is very original on my playlist, and so that's a very unique new favorite of mine. But in some ways, it's nostalgic for me. You know, they aren't just enjoyable listens. You know, I'm reminded many times I listen to it with that Musketeer energy. Despite them being German, it does sound a bit Celtic, and it kind of throws me back into my Riverdance days. I spent about 10 years in Riverdance, some of which I was able to perform around with a private troupe in our community from our dance school, which was a lot of fun. Their type of music brings me right back to the stuff I used to listen to and, in many respects, perform to with my group. It was just, every time I listen to them, I kind of get that kickback. But even then, you know, the tracks in isolation are just so enjoyable. I absolutely love listening to everything I've heard at this point on the channel, and there's been a very dynamic range of tracks and what they've offered. Some tracks are much more intensive in pacing, some are much softer, but every aspect of them impresses me. So I crave the experience, as I said, to speak about such wonderful talents and to advertise perhaps lesser-known groups. I mean, again, I judge this by my social circle. which doesn't listen to about 99% of the music I listen to, in reality. I keep mentioning names and I get blank stares. D'Artagnan is one, but I look for the talent that perhaps is unknown. And I don't say unknown in any way to throw shade. Unknown in the respect that they deserve a much grander presence in prominence in the music industry and in reverence from music connoisseurs like myself. That's the type of talent I love to spotlight on this channel. And with D'Artagnan, I've had such a treat doing it, and they absolutely deserve that spotlight. So we're back for number 13 at this point. As far as what I've covered on FELSENFEST thus far, I believe this is It's track 4 on the album. It's the title track, in fact, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've covered 6 tracks on FELSENFEST. This is number 7 with FELSENFEST, which sounds like a pretty unique name. I mean, I liked it going in. I mean, the album cover, too, was just great. I'm like, it was an engaging listener from the start in terms of an illustration perspective. Again, so much character to this group. But I'm interested to kind of see where the song goes. It's referred to, if you look at the translation for FELSENFEST, it translates in English to firm. So, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting name for the title track, but it sounds much better, in my opinion, in German. I'm going to go ahead and get the track queued up, and we can listen to it for the first time. And I'm sure for those of you who have not listened to D'Artagnan before, you are in for a fun ride. And because if you're new to my music related coverage, you don't necessarily know how I format my videos or how I approach my music related content. This is in part why it takes a bit longer. I try to provide every accommodation possible, so I will provide the lyrics for the English translation with this video in the bottom of the screen. I'll track along as the track proceeds. In accordance with that, because I normally format these videos specific to D'Artagnan with the original German lyrics, they've provided that through this lyric video that I will display. So I get some time cut in regard to the editing, and I appreciate that. So maybe this track will be a little bit faster to produce. Either way, D'Artagnan, I'm sure it'll be fun. Let's give it a try. I can add the 13th track now to my roster. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to go acquire all their albums previous to Feuer und Flamme. But I can't wait to add another track to my library and to cover one. You know, I love spotlighting good music, and D'Artagnan, been great. I like the string opening, that's great. Okay, growing intensity. Oh, beautiful. Good rhythm on that. Well, it's kind of like a video / lyric video. It's sort of like a music video in a way. You're getting the live performance. Good quick vocal pace in there too. Beautiful strength and timing. Very engaging. I love these little violin solo bits, by the way. Just so much fun. I'm a big strings fan, so I'd love seeing breakdowns like that. Those O's are perfect. Really work for me. Great transition to the next bit. Oh, nice elevation of key. I wonder if they're going to carry that into the last measure. The last chorus, I guess. Well, maybe not. Like a full-on instrumental breakdown. I love it. It's kind of like Feuer und Flamme Glückswetter escalated from just the violin. Well, I like the variety though. Great finish. That's quite the wrap-up. I figured the track may be lingering a bit. It's a shorter song, just shy by 2 seconds of the 3-minute mark. That's a very engaging first listen, though. I mean, beautiful piece. I definitely love the mixture of instruments on that. I mean, I've spoken before of D'Artagnan. How many groups are you familiar with if this is the first introduction for you? And that's a good testament, I would say, again, let's say for tracks I've said in the past that sort of float between... Well, and actually, I say it kind of breaks more into the aggressive and frenetic side. There's been some tracks that perhaps stand more in a middle ground, which, for metal fans and rock fans, there are sometimes people who don't necessarily like the harsher sound. Maybe they'll go for more of a, a lighter sound, less emphasis, but still maybe the atmosphere of what's typical in the metal scene. They might like a much softer work, though. So I like the range of taste that this track might apply to, but I feel like it's sort of along the territories I was saying of C'est la vie, definitely, and that one's off of Feuer and Flamme, as well as Glücksritter, especially on that last bridge with the instrumentals right before the third iteration of the chorus. And while I would love to hear another violin solo again, I mean, strings are really my thing. You can probably tell I've been listening to Glücksritter a lot by mentioning that, because there's a beautiful breakdown on that track from, I don't know his name, but the violin artist here. It's perfect. But I like the mixture here. I mean, I'm always game for, as I was saying, the more unusual to what's normalized in American music. I mean, we have plenty of guitars, and that's, of course, present with this rock and metal side with D'Artagnan as well. But how many groups do you hear that use bagpipes? I always mention it, because I never hear it in the metal scene. D'Artagnan's been the first example, and I absolutely love hearing it. Again, the variety. And again, like as I was saying, it sounds, for it being a German, I know, it sounds Irish. It would work perfectly. Again, I speak from my Riverdance background. If you were to bring this in as a piece, it would translate beautifully into an Irish number. There would honestly, from what I've heard, not be a difference. Not any that are detectable majorly. It's a great piece. I can definitely see why, with the emphasis of and the success of the execution of the track, that this is the title piece for the album. I think it definitely speaks to all of D'Artagnan's strengths very well, not just in the instrumentals, but the vocal performance. I mean, Ben's vocals are always really strong. His accent is just beautiful to listen to. But even the way the song is constructed from a lyrical perspective, again, I'm not familiarized with German. I studied Spanish, so it's an unfamiliar language to me in what the words mean on the substantive level, but in sound, German is gorgeous. And it blends very well with the piece. And I love the Musketeer vibe. It's always so present with their stuff. And it's just so, again, unusual by comparison to what else I've listened to on my particular familiar playlist. I love the individual character that D'Artagnan has. It's very impressive to me. I love showcasing groups like this. FELSENFEST is an ever fine addition to the album of the same name. It's beautiful. And again, like I said, I think it's a good mixture of their works. This is a first introduction to you. I hope you enjoyed the piece. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that down below, as well as for you long-time D'Artagnan fans, because I know there are a lot of you. What was your impression? Again, like I said, feel free to disclose your perspective if you so wish down below. I really feel personally that this is, I think, if you want to get a good first introduction to D'Artagnan, this speaks to all of their strengths quite well. And in some ways, a bit surprising. I mean, the guitar riff breakdown, that was new. And to mix that in again with the other instrument, the structure of that chorus, or the bridge, was a bit different, again, in execution from other verses. I mean, to have so much variety in that section, I really enjoyed that. And even just the structure of the piece overall, the background vocals, those O's, especially used as the transitions between sections of the chorus, I thought that was great. Really sounded sufficient for me. And to then use on the end chorus, before I forget, the violin as that like outro foundation. You can just hear it kind of carry over. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Captivating, as always. This is D'Artagnan. This is why I love them so much. And like I said, I love making these videos. They do take a while for me to edit, But D'Artagnan will always have a place on my channel in regard to their art. I love spotlighting groups like this. I love showcasing talent that perhaps, again, is unknown to certain audiences. Again, basing that on my familiarity with my social circle, because no one knows D'Artagnan. I hope that I can at least lead others. If I can't lead people that I know, maybe I can lead somebody else to a fine talent like D'Artagnan, right? We have talent, obviously, worldwide, and in Germany as well. I've been very impressed with what I've heard in the music library from, well, speaking of Europe, more broadly, the European rock and metal scene. D'Artagnan is an ever fine addition, and FELSENFEST certainly speaks to their talents as a group and their capabilities. Really like the track. It's a beautiful listen. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.